try this on bass guitar. Now on bass, I'd probably be pushing around 200 hertz a little bit here. Gonna roll off some highs and some of this honky shit. All right, so I've just set the bass settings to match close enough to the Scheps, as close as I can. So this is just the Scheps, and over this side is our DI, and this side is the 421, the bass microphone. What I'm hearing in this section of the song is that the twanginess, the bam, bam, beanie, beep, bam sort of stuff cuts through more in a harsh way on the Scheps 73, whereas the other two kind of mellow that out a little bit. The warm audio still has a bit more weight to it in what I'm hearing, and then the sound Skulptor is just a bit tighter. Yeah, and a bit more mids to it maybe. They are different. They are all different, all three of them. They all have a different characteristic. Once again, like, I hate to sound like a broken record. I just hear the same things. There's more muddiness in the lows on the plugin and a harsher high frequency with that twanginess coming from the DI and the mic, whereas there's a roundness to both the analog pieces, and then those analog pieces both sound different. The sound Skulptor is a bit tighter. The warm has a bit more bloom and a bit more low frequency kind of stuff going on. They both sound good. It would just be how you use them, and you could probably sculpt them each to do similar things as one another, but there is definitely a difference when they're set similarly. Anyway, let's get some good vocal tones going.
Swimming in the love, I say, oh, ah, swimming in the love. Deep sea explorer, a floor and faller, but he doesn't need goggles for this kind of water.
So we've got some basic EQ settings there. Let's have a listen to how that sounds in the mix.
I say, oh, ah, swimming in the love.
So that's sounding pretty much how I would want my vocal to stand out in a mix with just EQ. So we've got that all matched up within a couple of dB, and now we can start doing some direct comparisons.
Oh, ha! Deep sea explorer, a floor and faller, but he doesn't need goggles for this kind of water. And no, he's not a straight-up paddle boarder, but he makes 100 visits every business quarter. Oh, ha!
So we've got kind of this mid-focus thing going on, which is, you know, the boost over here at 4.8, giving a lot of that. Bit of sheen to the tops, like 110 hertz boost, but then that roll-off at 160. And that roll-off is like really useful for making vocals sound crisp. It's that funny thing where you roll off lows and then it sounds like things are brighter because it gets rid of some of the muddiness. Anyway, that's kind of what we're seeing with the Scheps 1073. Let's have a look at what we see with the Neve.
Swimming in the love, I say, oh, ha, oh, ha. Deep sea explorer, a floor and faller, but he doesn't need goggles for this kind of water. And And no, he's not a stirred-up paddle boiler, but he makes 100 visits every visit in his corner too.
Cool. So I'm seeing that we're getting more boost at around 8.6K. Let's go back.
Swimming in the love, I say, oh, ah, swimming in the love.
Anyway, let's have a look at what it sounds like in the mix.
Deep sea explorer, a floor, water, but he doesn't need goggles for this kind of water. And no, he's not a stirred-up paddle boiler, but he makes 100 visits every visit in his corner too. Deep sea explorer, a floor, water, but he doesn't need goggles for this kind of water. And no, he's not a stirred-up paddle boiler, but he makes 100 visits every visit in his corner too. Deep sea explorer, a floor, water, but he doesn't need goggles for this kind of water. And no, he's not a stirred-up paddle boiler, but he makes 100 visits every visit in his corner too. Swimming in the love, I say, oh, swimming in the love, I say, oh, swimming in the love, I say, oh, swimming in the love.
They're all so close in volume, but to me, the warm audio sounds louder. It's definitely got something going on in the mids where it's pushing through more, whereas I feel like the Sound Sculptor actually sits in the mix nicer. The warm audio sounds a bit too aggressive, whereas the Sound Sculptor sounds a bit sort of smoother.
I say, oh, swimming in the love. I say, oh, swimming in the love. I say, oh, swimming in the love.
It's very subtle. I don't think there's a huge difference, surprisingly, here. I expected to hear more difference in the vocal. Maybe those of you out there are hearing more of a difference than I am. I'm hearing definitely the harshness of the plugin versus the smoothness in the hardware. There's definitely some kind of mid-rangey aggressiveness coming out in the vocal on the warm audio, which I'm not particularly liking, which is really interesting. So I'm wondering what's causing that. I just feel like, personally, I like the Sound Sculptor on vocals better. It just sounds a bit smoother. It sits in the mix easier for some reason. You guys let me know in the comment section. What are you guys hearing? What do you prefer? We'll do one more test. I was going to do the drum bus, but I think what might give us more of an indication of what's going on these two, let's put it on the instrument bus. Now, if we're looking at the mix at the moment, this is a rough mix. And I love to see that on my instrument bus. Pretty flat, okay? Bit of a boost in the lows, roll off in the highs, creating space for vocals and stuff later on. Decent starting point on my instrument bus there. Cymbals could probably come up a little bit. You know, not a bad starting point for a rough mix. Let's do some like smiley face EQ shit and just make this sound, you know, like an instrument bus should. So just something subtle, you know, giving it that kind of polish. Alrighty, so what I've done is I've level matched the Scheps 1073 output with the volumes coming out of the Sound Sculptor 1073 and the Warm Audio 1073 on the stereo instrument bus. So what we now have is all of the plugins just on my instrument bus here, and we're going to compare just without any EQ engaged. I've disengaged these EQ bands on the Scheps. Let's have a listen to what happens when we just engage the plugin, because this will probably be mind-blowing for most people. And I've done the same on the hardware. I'm going to bypass the EQs on both of these preamps. Off. All right, so what we're doing right now is only showing what the preamp does on the instrument bus. Let's have a listen. And it's subtle, but you should hear it. The kick drum gets a little bit louder. There's a little bit of a sheen added to the highs, even though these are all disengaged. Okay, when I turn this plugin on, it gets a bit brighter, gets a bit fuller in the lows. Now let's try the Sound Sculptor. think it's more obvious that there's something going on there. Let's do the warm audio. And they are getting a little bit louder, there is that, but then it's also the preamps doing some stuff. Now, let's engage the EQs. I think there is the most obvious differences. We can really start to hear some changes in the mix. Now, to me, the warm audio definitely felt more mid-forward, way. Yeah, I just had to check them because they're way more mid-forward than the other two. It sounds like the mids are being boosted, even though they're not. It's just the highs. So there's definitely a mid-forwardness to the warm audio immediately as you turn it on. Their mids are already being boosted, I think. And we can have a look at that when we get into Plugin Doctor. On the sound sculptors, the highs sound quite different to the highs at 12 kilohertz. And then the plugin just sounds like a plugin. Like, to me, it's like, yeah, it's doing a thing, but it's not as interesting. The energy of it's not as interesting. Definitely getting more mids. I'm going to cut some more mids out of that. That's interesting. Look at these mids. Just way more mids than the other two. I've turned them down and they're still there. Yeah, there just seems to be more mid stuff going on. Crazy stuff. I'm hearing it too. Like, there's a harshness in the mids on the warm audio versus even the plugin. Like, for this duty, I would actually say that I prefer the sound of the Sound Sculptor and the plugin as opposed to the warm audio. So isn't that interesting? Like, on snare, for instance, I feel like I liked the warm audio best. But then on the mix bus, I hate the warm audio by comparison. It's too mid-rangey, it's got a honkiness and a harshness to it. Yeah, really interesting, really surprising stuff there, because some things it worked on better and some things it didn't, I feel. And look, that's just me, that's my preference, but you guys let me know in the comment sections down below. Did you have a preference to one of these specific pieces of gear? I always find it interesting doing these demonstrations because, you know, we've got to use our ears, and I'll try and scientifically match these things as best as I can within reason and level match them. But, you know, like, these pieces of analog gear do not have stepped, you know, boost or cuts. So there's a limit to how accurate this can be. And we just need to use our ears sometimes and acknowledge that there are some obvious differences here. I think the most eye-opening one for me, I thought it would be the vocals, but it's actually, when we put it on the instrument bus, we could hear some real significant differences there. On the drums as well, I felt like the plugin struggled on drums, on kick and snare, those fast transient kind of things compared to the hardware, but they all have their uses, obviously. So really cool stuff there. I hope this video was super useful to you all. As always, don't forget to hit like and subscribe. I'm Mitch from the DIYRecordingstudio.com. I'll catch you soon.